Hey, do you love houses? Today we're going to look at two great Craftsman houses, very different, and we're going to talk a little bit about what the Craftsman style is. All right, today we got a 1914 house. Now make sure you stay to the very end of the video because I'm going to put the internet valuations of the houses up. That's always pretty interesting. And let's jump right in. First thing right off the bat, wow, this is a Craftsman house. This is a gorgeous Craftsman house. Big. The paint is what really strikes me. It's a really unusual paint, like this kind of cream and white or yellow and white with the green roof. That's really, really nice. Often, you see a lot of Craftsman houses that are very earthy. Look down here at the steps, this kind of earthiness. A lot of times people bring in that earthy color into the roof, into all the aspects of it. But in this case, I love this paint job. In fact, this paint job may be my favorite part of the house. We got tapered columns, very traditional for this kind of house. Oh, look at that. Look over here. So these are called the fly rafters. And this is where you see, it's Craftsman, and we'll talk about Craftsman after this 3-minute review. It's almost like a little bit of an eye line, like an actress might pull out just to extend the eye. That's really what happens here and also up here. So that's really beautiful. Also, I think, let's check this. It looks like the roof changes angles on this. Let's roll around here. So it's not up on the dormer, but on the main roof. Look, this angle comes down, comes down, comes down, and then right when it crosses the wall, it changes its angle and it actually comes up like another degree or 2 degrees. So that's pretty interesting. That's kind of Asian in my mind. That's a real, that kind of changing the roof right as it exits the house is very beautiful. And it doesn't do it on the dormer, which is fine, but it still has that little bit of the detail there. Let's see what else we can see here. Oh, and I like the chimney. So the chimney, I can see at the very top, the chimney, this is red brick, but they didn't leave it red brick. They actually painted it this cream color. Once again, taper. We got tapers everywhere on a Craftsman house. That's kind of the theme of Craftsman, right? It came out of the prairie style, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but really about the taper, kind of about coming from the ground. I also really like the way the chimney goes through this part of the house, and that this isn't just hollow, because you have big eaves up under here, probably 30 inches, 36 inches of depth. And that's nice, but you'd have this big kind of hollow space with the chimney going through there. So the fact that this is covered, but then it's also painted light is really nice because it makes the house kind of feel lighter. I mean, that could be a lot of mass if that was painted dark up there. Also, what it does is it allows you to have this overhang over these windows. So that's going to let you have a much more protected window. You're not going to get rain against, and also some more shading. Beautiful house. These are probably just decorative, these little bits, and of course the knee braces are more than decorative. Like they actually help support this fly rafter on the outside. The house is symmetrical side to side. It's in both ways actually, right? It's symmetrical along this axis, but it's also symmetrical from the front, which is it's not always the case with Craftsman, but it's really nice. And let's see, come around. Oh, look at this here. This is funny. Okay, so we had these fly rafters, and they're awesome, and they're very pointy, and this is probably, 12 feet off the ground, and this is probably 17 feet off the ground. But look at what they did. On the garage, they put another fly rafter down with the same style. The roof changes pitch. I love it. I mean, I love it when they build a garage that matches the house. But in this case, it's not 12 feet off the ground, and that looks pretty sharp. So I can only imagine that there's people who have scars around their head and neck from this particular architectural detail. Also, it's probably been hit by a car before and broken off and repaired, is my guess. The house doesn't look like it's been added on, except this little bit here. This is a very prairie style addition. It has some of the Craftsman details. It looks like it was a porch, and that's been closed in, and to get the mudroom. But generally, the house looks pretty much unchanged over the years. I love this house. I'm going to call this house like a dreamsicle, creamsicle dreamsicle. That's what it is. It's just, for being as old as it is, it's beautiful, and I love the mature plantings. I love the fact that it just feels, it's got a nice social space outside. It's in great shape. The windows they're not white vinyl windows, even though the windows are painted white. I love that they're actually dark windows. So I don't think you could have painted the window areas white if the windows themselves were white. All right, is that 3 minutes? It's about 3 minutes. All right, so let's talk a little bit, now that the clock has stopped, and I'm trying to learn how to do these in 3 minutes. It's not easy. So let's talk about what makes a Craftsman house. So Craftsman, you definitely see Craftsman from about 1905 to about the Depression in 1930. And sometimes people still today use Craftsman style. And it was really a reaction to what was happening in the Victorian period, where with a lot of decorations, like decorations that didn't have any purpose. They were just crazy decorations, a lot of doodaddles and like turn pieces, like, you know, you've seen like Queen Anne and other Victorians. So, and that really came out of the Industrial Revolution, right? The Industrial Revolution meant there was a lot of factories, and things that used to have to be made by hand and were very expensive could now be made in a factory, and then a railroad was available to actually deliver it wherever you wanted. It kind of cheapened the whole idea of decoration. So in about 1905, this guy named Stickley came up with this new philosophy of like building a house like you build furniture, like Craftsman style, meaning you don't hide the braces, you don't hide the structure. So going back to this house, look at these little points here. So these are the tails of the rafters, right? In a lot of houses, you actually hide them behind a fascia board. Maybe that's where the gutter is. But in this case, these are the actual structure of the house. Then there's these knee braces here, and then actually bringing out a little bit of the fly rafter just as decorative and pretty. Stickley was really into Asian woodworking and Asian joinery. So you see a lot of interesting details. And I think the roof changing angles like that, that's kind of Asian to me. You know, this little kick out, very minor kick out here. Also just these, you know, just these beautiful little details are kind of have an Asian feel. The other thing that you almost always see is taper. Look at the tapered column, look at the tapered chimney. It goes all the way to the top with one very narrow taper. Even the wall here is tapered. Like it comes, you know, it starts out here and it tapers in, tapers in, tapers in. The dormer is further even back, so it kind of maintains that line. So that's a very Craftsman thing you see. Also, a built-in porch is very usual for a Craftsman house. Like a nice social space, 6-7 feet deep, you know, so you can put some furniture out there, you can actually sit out there. The porch is usually 5 or 6 steps up above the grass, which is nice. This is a nice Craftsman style. So, and this is amazingly kept, and who knows if it's been in this condition its entire existence, but it really is, it's really in perfect shape. For 106 years, that's kind of nuts. So now that we know a little bit about Craftsman, I want to take you to a different house, and this house, and I'll try to do this one in 3 minutes too. I don't have a clock because my phone is actually recording me right now. Let me talk about maintenance for a minute, because, you know, people change houses for 2 reasons usually. One is they've outgrown some aspects of the house and they need more space, so you see them modifying. And in this case, we saw that, right? We saw over here, we saw an addition that is probably not part of the original house. The other thing that people do over time is, in this case, I don't see it, is they change things to maintain them because they weren't maintainable the way they were built. So they often change things. What's interesting about Craftsman, which I think is really to its benefit, is a lot of the details are up under the roof, right? That's where you see like all the angle braces or the knee braces, and the little bits of trim and everything are kind of up where they're not going to get abused, they're not going to get broken by a soccer ball, they're not going to get, they're not under the extreme weather that something closer to the ground. Like think of a Victorian house, right? A Victorian house, and let's say it has like turned railings along the porch, right? Where you can kick them, where they get wet every time it rains, every time the porch gets wet, it splashes, it's hard to paint them, it's hard to maintain them. So in this case, I think that the Craftsman nature is pretty good, the fact that the details are so high up, they're out of the way of damage. So now we're going to look at another Craftsman house that you wouldn't necessarily know is Craftsman, and we're going to take it apart. And I don't have a clock, so I'm just going to do my best at 3 minutes. So what do I think about this guy? Well, this is a nice little Craftsman house. Now, I can tell you this is not in the city, this is a ways out in the mountains actually. And this has come a long way from probably what it was at first. This has got, I love the roof, I love the double gables here, like these 2 gables are really nice. It's been stuccoed. We can see, just like on Creamsicle Dreamsicle, this one has the tapered columns. It's got them on either side of the stair, and then it's got it over in the corner. Now in this case, this brick and the stucco has been applied. It has a metal roof applied to it. But what's this up here? Oh yeah, look, we can zoom in. So I'm betting that this house used to be all of this, at least in the top half of the house. This was probably the siding, was basically this kind of feathery board and batten. I don't know what you call this. If you know, put it in the comments. It's more than board and batten. It's kind of more complicated than that. Kind of a shingle look. So, oh yeah, and here it is here too. Look at that. Can you see it? It's still above the porch here. So that's interesting. So I think in this case, this was a nice Craftsman house, and at some point somebody wanted it to be a forever house, meaning they got rid of all the wood on it. They got rid of all the details as far as I can see. Oh, no, here's a detail. Look at that. We got one little fly rafter, got a little bloop that they cut into it. What about here? Oh yeah, and there's one right here. And there's some little details on the windows here. So I think it was a much more decorated house at some point, but they stripped it down, and I'm gonna guess the brickwork, probably in the 50s, this kind of looks like that was a thing to do, but it could have been any time. So definitely it changed the look of the house, but the basis of the house is very Craftsman. So a really deep porch, so nice generous entry, 5 or 6 steps up. And then this gable end, the main ridge of the house is actually further back, but you can't even see this from the street. So they really minimized this gable end so that it would take up a little less than half of the front of the house, if you can follow me on that. So when you see here, like this roof is actually bigger than this triangle. If this triangle had come all the way forward, it would be pretty big, and it would have ended over here. It would have kind of dominated this roof. So as it is, it's a really nice little trick they've done. So I'm thinking that this house, somebody at some point decided they did not want to do any more maintenance on this house, and good for them. They encased it in stucco. They totally made it fireproof. They totally made it not need paint. It's a forever house, actually, which is great because these houses are already really well done usually. So let's see, I think that if we go back here, look next door, we have another Craftsman, probably built within a year or two of this one. So you can see what this one might have looked like. So it's got little purloins under here to support the eave. Not a lot of real fanciness, but you can just tell it's also got the deep porch. It probably looked just like this one until they've done all these changes, which is totally interesting. Let's see, let's zoom in a little bit here. Yeah, look at that. I wonder if this was original, if this was a very decorated house. Probably it was original. I mean, this is like just like the chimney we saw in the first house we saw today, which was super tapered. The brick here looks like it wanted to make a column, but it didn't really make sense in adding it, but it needed it in some way. And then the bricks here, the brick here, yeah, the brick's okay. I mean, this house seems happy. This house seems happy, and this house is not going anywhere soon. So that is really a benefit of this. So I don't know what I'm gonna call this house. This house probably thinks this house was adopted. It doesn't even know it's Craftsman, possibly. It's just a nice little bungalow, and bungalow is the term you really would use for an old Craftsman house like this, especially one with not a big second floor and a big wide porch on the front. That's the correct term for here. I love this little guy, actually. So this is a nice little house. You can see, hopefully you can start to see how the Craftsman carried over. And you can see that Craftsman's more than just the decorative elements. That's an important part of it, and that always was an important part of it. But in this case, I think you can see the basis of the house is really still there. Hey, thanks so much for joining me and talking about houses. If you like what I'm doing, please subscribe to my channel so it gives me the support and feedback that I need to keep doing this. For the next episode, I'm going to dive into colonial houses, and I found some colonials in the area that have gone a little bit cuckoo. So we're going to talk about colonial, and then we're going to see some funny variations on the theme.